Hey, what's up YouTube? It's your boy Ghosties, and I'm back with another banger of a video. In this video, I'll be telling you about an interesting adventure I went on recently. Now, throughout the school year, I've been taking the advanced placement version of United States history, and as part of the course, we students get to go on a trip to the World War II Museum in New Orleans. Now, I knew this trip was going to be interesting, but I did not expect to be exposed to the things I was exposed to on this trip, literally. So for this trip, we would be taking a charter bus, but since the trip was a one-day trip, I had to wake up at 3 in the morning. Now, I've never woken up that early in my life, so I was kind of shitting my pants. Literally, I almost was late because I had to take a shit. Also, my parents were not going to be waking up that early to drive me to the school bus. So I had to drive myself. Luckily, every time I began to drift off the road, my car would vibrate. And I did have to be very careful though at red lights, because if I stopped moving, I would just pass right out. Which is crazy because when I got on the bus and sat down, first off, the TV at my seat was broken, and second off, I couldn't sleep right away. Those seats are so uncomfortable for sleeping. I felt like an old man the way my back was crunched up. By the time we got to New Orleans, it was almost 10 o'clock, and it was time for our World War II museum tour. And I'm not even gonna cap, that shit was crazy. Tom Hanks did some of the voiceover work for the pre-show, which was cool. It was pretty much like a movie, except with some stuff that would pop out, and the seats were super comfortable, and I was like kind of falling asleep, but it was super cool, so I was trying to stay awake. And when they represented the nuke going off at the end of the pre-show, that shit definitely woke me up. It was like getting flashbanged. And also, just so you guys know, I only pooped my pants twice. Once when they were in the jungle at the beginning. I thought they were just doing establishing shots, and all of a sudden they were shooting. And the second time was when there was a plane that flew right at the screen. That one got me. It came out of nowhere. It came from on top of the screen where you couldn't see it, down right into my face, and I shit myself a little bit. But I mean, come on, the pre-show was like a fucking horror movie, the way it was like shot, jeez. But anyways, I had to clean my underwear afterward. So, anyways, after the pre-show and cleaning my underwear, it was time to wander around the museum. So all the students split into groups with our designated chaperone, which I most definitely did not stick with, and my friend and I immediately began wandering through Germany. We learned so much. Okay, maybe that was a lie, but the museum was actually kind of cool. We saw a bunch of replicas and videos of battles, but the coolest part was the wall of half-naked women and photos that the soldiers kept with them. After exploring the first half of the museum, we were supposed to meet up to find a place to eat for lunch, but since my friend and I were done a little bit early, we decided to go up and down the escalator, because we're 9 years old and that is the kind of thing we find fun. I'm sure the security guys watching the camera thought I was the smartest kid in class, as they watched me try to walk the wrong way up the escalator. After meeting up with the rest of the class and deciding where to eat lunch, my friend and I decided to go with the pizza group, which was definitely interesting. We smelled a lot of weed and fake weed, and for some reason in New Orleans, on one side of the street, there are super nice buildings and houses, while on the other side, there were run-down warehouses. It was definitely very interesting. After returning to the museum, we had to explore the other half of the museum. And that was pretty cool too. It was even cooler when we realized we were walking the wrong way around the museum. Once again, I'm sure the guys on the camera had a lot of fun watching us walk around, very goofily. Anyways, after exploring the museums, it was time to go to Café du Monde. And I probably didn't pronounce that right, so I'm just going to say the cafe from now on. And also, we weren't allowed to ride the bus over there. We had to walk 1.5 miles just for some coffee and beignets. And let me tell you, that walk was the best part of the trip. Like I said before, New Orleans is a super interesting city, full of super interesting people, and even more interesting smells, some more illegal than others. Also, I would like everyone to keep in mind that New Orleans is probably not the safest place for 94 students to be wandering around, but whatever, it makes for a funny story. There were so many interesting sights to see on the adventure, like all the homeless cities, pretty buildings and gay bars. Also, there was a guy pretending to be a statue who, he scared the shit out of some of my classmates. The most interesting part of the walk through was when we had our first crackhead sighting. This man was shirtless and shaking down the road while twirling a blanket over his head. I tried my best not to make eye contact, but voice crack, Jesus Christ. It was difficult, and my teacher who was leading the pack took a wide gap around him. Fast forward through a bit of walking, and we have finally made it to the cafe, which of course had a long line. But once we finally got the beignets, we got to see all the pigeons being absolute menaces. And of course, we got to see one of my high school classmates chasing them around trying to capture them. There's always that one guy. Also, if you thought the walk to the cafe was interesting, the walk back was even crazier. First off, we walked a different way, and it started to rain. Then we almost got hit by a trolley. Then my friend and I, who I've been hanging out with the entire trip, decided that we wanted to move up to the front of the line to talk with some friends. And that is when it happened. As we began speeding up, we saw this crackhead go out into the middle of the road, pick up an empty can, throw that shit very lightly. It like blew back at him. And then he turned around, saw a line of students walking by, and that motherfucker whipped his cock out. And he started helicoptering that shit. So yeah, I saw a crackhead's penis on a school field trip. And that scarred me for life. I'm never going on a field trip ever again. Nah, I'm just kidding. It was actually pretty funny. And it was funnier because there was a cop right next to him, except the cop was arresting someone else. And also, I'd like to point out that that shit was outside of Weed World. And yeah, there was a lot of riots among the students, giggles, trying to get into Weed World. I don't know. They're high schoolers, man. I don't know. And also, we saw a homeless guy rubbing one out in the corner. But, I mean, he's got to do what he's got to do. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Anyways, that's it. See ya.